Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Pain Scale. I'm here with you today for another life tip video. Um, there's nothing wrong with exposing bad people. And just as the title says, just like that, there's really nothing wrong with exposing bad people. Um, I spoke briefly in my last video about the P. Diddy trials, and it's like, you let this guy get away with pretty much, well, I'm like pretty much murder. I guess, that's a figure of speech, but not that P. Diddy's being tried for murder or anything like that. It's, when I say that, it's just a figure of speech. Basically, people were letting P. Diddy get away with pretty much anything he wanted. And that's not to blame, the victims in the case. Like, if you are familiar with the P. Diddy case, Cassie, his once partner, and somebody P. Diddy abused a lot. If you have seen the video where P. Diddy does beat up Cassie, that is very graphic. I would not recommend watching that. If that is a trigger for you, abuse. But yeah, it's a very hard video to watch. But people let him get away with, again, figuratively murder. He got to do whatever he wanted, and he would pay people off, or he would have loyal people like, oh, I'm gonna move up in the world. Some people think, it's, he should have been caught earlier, and I believe put away earlier. People like that try to not only abuse other people physically and mentally, but just try to use money to have control over other people. It's crazy. Yeah, this is what that video is. There's nothing wrong with to expose people. I've been told before. Well, I guess I've not been told really, but I guess in passing it's been mentioned. Like I was talking to my therapist before, and I think at one point during my childhood I got some teachers that were being abusive, or letting the other kids do what they want to me, kicked out of the school. And I was like, for a long time I guess I felt bad for that. But now, I don't feel bad for that at all. Like, it's like people like that, should not be working with children. Even though, from what I remember, they were hired when I was leaving that school again. Almost, I guess, like a something to throw in my face or something like that. Um, because the school that I went to, it was very, like, I could say, so some of the shit that'll probably be a separate video, because some of the shit that I say, it's going to sound like a movie, but I swear to God, like, that shit actually happened, like, in my past. Like, it's my past is broken up. I believe that's due to trauma. I hear when you have very traumatic history like PTSD or something like that, a lot of your past is just really broken up, and that's what it's like for me. Like, a lot of my past is broken up, and sometimes like it'll come back and hit me. So, but yeah, let me go ahead and continue here. Um, yeah, and I was like, no, I don't like today. Like, no, I don't feel bad about those people. Um, no, I don't. And it's like some people might say like, oh, you should feel like you made people lose their income and all that kind of shit. It's like does income, does money take priority over being a piece of shit? You know what I'm saying? Like, you can be a piece of shit, but as long as if somebody's making you lose your income, that's a no no. Like, no, they can still be a piece of shit. They should still make money because that's all they have. Like, am I supposed to feel bad for people like that? It's like it's no. And I think there's a lot of that out there, especially with business people. Like, like, oh, if you make somebody lose income, like, no, no. It's I used to watch a show called Bar Rescue. If you heard about it, it was popular show, a very popular show at one time. It's about this guy is from Vegas, um, named John Taffer, and he would go to different bars. It's like, if you've seen Kitchen Nightmares, like, it's that but with bars. and stuff like that. And it's like there's so many times like it says like something like I remember one time he brought up the Me Too movement, which I'm not too familiar with the Me Too movement. But from what I understand, the Me Too movement was a movement where people were coming out with abuse and stuff like that, and people are like, oh wow, like yeah, that shit's happened to me too, and he mentioned that briefly, like, have you, like, because something happened at a bar, and he was like, oh, like, the Me Too movement is thing. Almost like he says, like, it's all to protect profits, all protect money, like, it's just, looking back on that now, it's like, I don't know, I despise that show. Because of that's just a lot of those things on play, especially, like, the sale of alcohol, like, liquor. Like, I'm not saying it's a bad thing to, like, drink, every once in a while, but, being around an alcoholic for a good portion of your life, you start to see, how damaging that stuff can really be to someone, and just being just not wanting to be around, people who drink, I just, yeah, I don't, if I find alcohol sales, I find that very scummy. You can take that however you will. But yeah, that's my personal opinion. I find the sale of alcohol scummy. Again, take that what you will. Moving on. But yes, you should never be afraid to expose anyone, whether that be from a past job or anything like that. Um, one thing I'm going to talk about is an anime convention that I used to volunteer at, which I no longer believe volunteering at, any of these anime gaming conventions. I really don't. And I'm gonna give my reason for. I probably touched on this very briefly before. In one of my past videos, just very briefly, possibly, or maybe it was even across maybe two, maybe three videos. I might have mentioned it before, but I'm going to go in depth with that. Now, because I remember started, like, I was just really excited, like, oh wow, like, I'm doing something for the anime community. It's like, after a while, I start to become conscious of things, very self-aware. Like, I guess at that time I was just so excited, like, I just didn't see the truth. Like, I was just really happy. But then you start to see the reality of it. What's an anime convention? An anime convention is, or a gaming convention, are conventions where people make money off of other people's works of art, properties, um, that they had nothing to do with. But those conventions, to me, now I consider those conventions scams. I really do. Like, they're not making money for the creators of those characters. They're not making anything. They're not making money for anything that has to do with that industry. Nor do they have anything to do with making that industry. The anime and the gaming industry, those are popular on its own. And I find it, very scummy. Again, just like alcohol sales, to make monies off of others' art. Because one thing I say ever since I started writing, well, not exactly when I started writing, but one thing I do say is, um, it's easy to get rich off of other people's creativity. And I truly believe that. And, I believe, they feel, the volunteers, that's the word, because I was a volunteer. They can, at one point I was considered a staff member, but, it's not about making money for, none of the volunteers, none of the staff are paid. Um, None of that. I guess maybe at some conventions they do that. I have no clue. But I'm not here to discuss every single convention because I really don't have the time for that shit. I'm just sitting here or sorry, not telling. I'm trying to inform you of what I believe. And at these anime conventions, they say, "Oh, well, you get experience from these and stuff." Like, no, like, you're and some people might say, "Oh, this guy is Gen Z through and through." Feel free to call me Gen Z through and through, because if this statement makes me Gen Z through and through, I'm happy with that. No, you want a free workforce, not paying them at all, and you want to say they're getting experience. Like what job what industry can you break into saying, "Oh, hey, I volunteered at an anime convention"? I don't think anybody would. I don't think that really matters at any point. If you're especially if you're doing something like really fucking important for the world, like trying to change or help the fucking world. I don't think they're gonna say, "Oh wow, oh he's so nice, he volunteered at an anime convention." Like no, no. That I believe that's I my personal belief is those people are taking advantage of you. They're because they're like, oh, like you get to work with the voice actors, all this. Like no, no, those people are trying to get a free work for us. That's I don't even think I need to really explain that. I think the evidence is just there. It's self evident. And yeah, it's just that. And I'm going to read a letter that I did write to. I hope that did not interrupt the recording, but I'm going to bring it up. I wrote it to one of the owners of the anime club. The anime convention. And I wrote this basically like I was writing a story. I remember when I was writing it down, like I wrote a title for it and everything. Let me go ahead and get this. And before I read this, I'm gonna say this. I know there's one particular sentence which I'm going to say. It does mention suicide. It's not me telling anybody to commit suicide. But that's a trigger warning. I know that's a very harsh statement, but again, like I've said before, I like to tell the truth 100% on this channel, so I'm not going to leave out that statement. If you need to fast forward a bit, I'm still going to go ahead and read this statement. But let me go ahead and pull this up here. And yeah, I did entitle. It's called "A Piece of My Mind," and yeah, this is exactly how I felt about this person. Honestly, some people might say like, "Oh, what does this have to do with it?" Writing something is a part of exposure. Like if you want to expose put somebody out there, feel free to do that. Do be careful though. Some people will try to do lawsuits. If I'm not mistaken, whatever reason that's allowed. I have no fucking idea. I'm not familiar with the law, but it's crazy. People can be pieces of shit, but they don't want to be publicly called pieces of shit. So I'm not going to mention the name, but I did send this to that person. And again, there is a sentence here mentioning suicide. So again, I'm going to start reading it right now. If you do, if that is too much for you, feel free to skip or just straight up leave the video. Okay, I understand, but I'm gonna go ahead and read this again. I was writing this out. I called this "A Piece of My Mind." Hello, I am contacting you because you are the worst of the worst. You are a lazy, no good piece of shit. Yes, you are. You use other people's work and art to make money, and, well, something has to be said. You use other people's hard work to make yourself look good. You are the worst of humankind, and if I was related to you or married to you, I would commit suicide. You are somebody who surrounds themselves with yes men to make yourself feel better. What a pitiful existence you live, and please enjoy the rest of your worthless days. Love, Rodney, which that's my first name. Okay, so I know that was a lot, and again, in a way, I do feel bad for that statement. About me commit. I would want to commit suicide if I was related to them in any way. But I think I needed to say that statement even to I still need to address that statement because that's real right there. I believe this is not me trying to justify that statement at all, but that was from like the pits of my hatred for people. Like I pulled that, like I pulled a lot of this out from literally like the pits of my dark side. Like this was, I guess, no, I'm not saying taking, saying like, oh, my dark side, literally. No, it's like this was me riding along with my dark side, like hand in hand. Like we were out to um we were out to tell somebody, they were pieces of shit. But again, no, that's not me justifying that statement. And I don't want to get stuck on that statement, but I felt that, so that there is so needed to say to people. Just tell them what a piece of shit they are. Like, let's normalize that in society. Like, let's normalize calling somebody a piece of shit, like, publicly. And again, like, they have, like, oh, what is that? What do you call it? Defamation, or whatever the fuck that is. Defamate, like, oh, like, you can't call, which is interesting because it's like, here in the States, we're supposed to have freedom of speech, but we're not allowed to uh call somebody out on their book. Because I know there's a lot of people out there that, that are just assholes and will call anybody any kind of thing. But it's very wrong, to call piece of shit a piece of shit. Here in the United States, I think that's taboo across the board here in the United States. But I'm not afraid to do it. But yeah, it's just there's nothing. The message of this video is there's nothing wrong exposing people. There really isn't. I know anybody can say anything about anybody. I know that's a thing. But it's, if you truly genuinely have a statement to make about somebody, whether that be somebody you know, somebody you're around, somebody at work, somebody you just see in general, like certain politicians that are pieces of shit openly, if you have something to say, that, like, I think, that should be looked upon as a good thing. Like, you need to share your opinion on these people and, what they're doing that makes the world worse. I know the person that I sent that message to is definitely not the, I guess, I don't know, like, some people would say, like, oh, that's not the biggest person out there, that's not a politician. No. But no, it's like, everyday people can be pieces of shit. And a lot of those people get away with their shit. So, it's just, there's nothing wrong with calling those people out publicly. I don't believe so, online, on video, or anything. Do be careful though. Again, they have the whole defamation thing here in the United States. I don't know about anywhere else, but I know here, if you call somebody out for being a bad person, you could get sued for that. But so do be careful. But yeah, there's nothing. There's nothing wrong with calling people out, though. There really isn't. So I'm gonna go ahead and end this video here. And yeah, do keep in mind, if you want to talk about somebody, in the chat, or just, you don't even have to mention their name. If you just want to release some shit, just say like, oh, I fucking hate this person. Feel free to do so. Yeah, in the chat section, if you like to. Again, I do apologize for that one sentence in that letter that I wrote to that one person. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. During that time, like, usually I make my videos, or really all the time. I make my videos when I'm raw, and like, I definitely wrote that when I was raw. Again, not trying to cover anything up for me, not trying to say, I myself, I wasn't a piece of shit, because honestly, I do feel at times, I am a piece of shit for writing down that sentence. So, that's on me. So that's, I'm not trying to distance myself from that statement at all. I know I made it. I know I wrote it. And it's out there. So yeah, but You don't, but obviously, if you wanted to write, a piece of your mind, you don't have to go that far. You could just straight up just say, obviously, yeah, you're a piece of shit. The world, it's you make the world the worse place. But yeah, again, I'm gonna go ahead and end this. If you're watching this, um, this is the Pain Scale. I am your host, Pain. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you are watching this, thank you again. Have a good one.